the person behind the performer.
How long have you been singing?
Well, I've been singing, since as far back as I can remember. You know, my voice broke and then I took it up again when it settled down again.
What is a man? What has he got? If not himself, then he has not to say the things he truly feels, and not the words of one who kneels. The record shows I took the blues, but I did it my way.
Strange how few stars actually came out of this process.
Our next guest is a man of many mysteries, and here he is with one of the finest illusions in the entire world.
Yes, well, there are a few mysteries surrounding this performance, the main one being how it ever got onto our TV screens in the first place.
Well, I don't know why I came here tonight. I got the feeling that something ain't right. I'm so scared in case I fall off my chair, and I'm wondering how I'll get down the stairs. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. When you started out with nothing and you found that you're a self-made man, and your friends, they all come crawling, slap you on the back and say, please, please. Trying to make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? 'Cause I don't think that I can take anymore. Clowns to the left of me, jokers to the right. Here I am, stuck in the middle.
Now, this is the clever bit.
Yes, I'm stuck in the middle with you. Stuck in the middle with you. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you.
How did he do it? Or more to the point, how did he get away with it? In the 1970s, the biggest rock band in Ireland was Horslips.
We didn't know what we were doing. We were experimenting. We had plenty of ideas, and we were lucky enough to be able to work through a good few of those ideas very quickly.
Sing and everything will be alright. Sing and everything will
Horslips brought rock music to parts of Ireland that other bands had never reached and paved the way for others to follow.
If Horslips could be seen to be some sort of, ragamuffin precursors to a U2 or whatever, then I'm sort of happy to go along those lines.
When this film about so-called unmarried mothers was made, it proved impossible to find any who would appear in front of RT's cameras. Instead, the young lovers were played by professional actors, running wild in the country. One thing soon leads to another, with all too predictable consequences.
70s in Ireland was BC, before condom.
When this film was made by RT, births outside marriage amounted to less than 3% of the total born that year in Ireland. In 2004, the figure was more than 30%.
To be pregnant out of wedlock at that time was an enormous scandal.
In every sense, Ireland was a smaller society in the 70s. There were 1 million less people for a start, and at times, everyone seemed to know everyone else's business.
We just knew that this was going to cause major problems. Ireland was still the valley of the squinting windows and all of that. The early 70s in Ireland was a particularly bleak and grim time.
In the scenario of this film, it was assumed the unmarried father would simply and literally disappear.
Even though the 60s had supposedly liberated everybody sexually, nonetheless, young women disappeared. They went to see their aunt in England. They went to look after an old relative somewhere. And everybody knew exactly what had happened, and they came back without the babies, and everybody moved on.
They would disappear, out of sight, out of harm's way, out of mind. Do I know what happened? I'm not absolutely sure.
And at the end of this film, the unmarried mother simply leaves. There is no indication of what will happen next, but it is clear that her options are limited. The past in Ireland is, indeed, a very different country.
It doesn't matter anymore. We now have a different reality, and we better make sure that the children born into those quite different family structures get a good deal.
You have forgotten all about the budget. Well,
Hall's Pictorial Weekly carried the banner of political satire throughout the 70s.
must be endured.
Frank was quite a satirist, he was quite a cynic. He was quite, in his own way, he was a rebel.
Frank Hall's sketches had many targets, but the main one was usually the government of the day, and his satire was particularly sharp when it was directed against the coalition government of the mid-1970s.
He wrote these sketches, and he wrote them in the knowledge that government would find them offensive, and he almost dared them to do anything about it.
I want to convince you how well off you are, no matter what the other crowd says.
It was very damaging because we were one-channel land. There was nothing else to look at.
My government is the best government you have.
The Minister for Hardship was believed by many to have played a major role in actually damaging the coalition in the eyes of the Irish electorate.
It certainly did have a very damaging effect. It portrayed that government as mean, mingy, punitive, grey, horrible.
Good night.
A hugely popular RTE television series that annoyed and upset the government. No change there then. See you in part 3.
I'm sending you my greetings. I wish I could be there with you in person to sing or dance or do whatever it is I'm supposed to do. But perhaps next year. As a matter of fact, I'll let you on a little secret. Definitely next year, I will be appearing on this channel in a special that I hope to shoot in your part of the world, which I have never visited professionally. So until that time, good greetings to all.
I'm a drunk. But at least I know I'm a drunk.
Ryan Confidential, Thursday at 10:15 on RTE1.
Yo ya te iba a querer, pero me arrepentí. La luna me miró y yo la...
Documentos. A ver, bájese. A ver, ábrele. Rápido, más rápido.
¿Y estos?
Ah, ya váyase. Gracias.
Ya te iba a querer, pero me arrepentí. La luna me
¿Pedro?
miró
Sí, señor.
y yo
Bueno, llegaste.
la comprendí.
Porquería. Fíjate.
La vida es una tómbola, tómbola, la vida es una tómbola, tómbola, de luz y de color.
¡María! ¡Otra Arrow River!
Tómbola, y todos en la tómbola encuentran un amor. ¡Tómbola!
Thanks to you, the National Lottery last year raised millions of euro for the health and welfare of our children. Thank you for playing.
Do you think she'll like me?
Yeah, everyone loves you. Is that a new shed, Mum?
Go on. She seems nice. Thank you.
Oh, let's open them then.
He was an interesting-looking baby.
Your happiness loves Cadbury.
Top of the morning to you. Or is it the bottom of the evening? Well, I suppose you do say that over there.
Welcome back. Perhaps every new wave of music is designed to upset and annoy those in positions of authority. That was especially true in the early days of punk.
Then we have a group like The Clash. The name itself tells you a lot about the group. You have songs on it like White Riot, Hate and War, Police and Thieves, and The Cheat. All of those show that punk rock is indeed a violent music.
When punk came to Ireland, it arrived first in the north.
The Clash would sing about, you know, guns in Brixton or wherever it is. Every street in Belfast had their guns.
The Belfast punk scene was actually opposed to sectarian violence.
Is there anything special about the Belfast punk scene?
Like, we've got something to work off. To work off the troubles and all.
Soon there was also punk, or at least new wave bands like the Radiators playing in Dublin.
Suddenly, these young bands like the Boomtown Rats and the Radiators and Revolver and so on came along with loads of energy and a huge desire to make their voices heard.
Now this is one of my favourite groups, one of the biggest gonna be Boomtown Rats!
The warehouse where you're living, I'm waiting on the stocky too long. I've been standing in the rain for 50 minutes, that's a quarter of an hour too long.
Bob Geldof was a real showman. And he just really wanted to be a star.
Then I'm gonna ask some more, 'cause the money's very deep in the bank of big.
There was always a sense that Bob was unstoppable.
It looked like he just wanted to rip everybody's head off to make himself so famous.
There seems to be a strong Irish influence in the punk rock scene in Britain.
One reason for that is because Irish are niggers. We've always been niggers. We've been trod on for 900 years. And that's why that is, I think.
Bob appeared to be fueled by a genuine manic urgency to succeed and to be seen to be successful.
It's only 8 o'clock, but you're already bored. You don't know what it is, but
This was the first song from an Irish band that went to #1 in the UK.
It's a rat trap, and you've been caught.
Bob Geldof, what are your plans with the band for 1979?
World domination, a new pair of trousers, lots of Christmas presents.
I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna be like that.
In the mid-1970s, a documentary series with Mike Murphy broke new ground for RTE.
I think Mike and I were seen maybe by some of the third floor and RTE song and dance men and not to be trusted with the documentary.
The series expanded the horizons and the ambitions of Irish entertainment.
Mike and I thought, what would we really like to do in television? And both of us had a love affair with America.
I'd like for y'all to get together and give a...
Mike Murphy was never afraid to take risks on camera. One of the biggest he took in this series was when he blagged his way into the shrine of US country music and ended up on the stage of the Grand Ole Opry in front of a capacity audience.
But it had to go before some sort of Country Music Association committee, because unless you are a proper country singer, they don't encourage that sort of thing. But because we were Irish, Mike was allowed to sing on the Grand Ole Opry.
I'd like to thank the Opry people for allowing me to sing this one song here this evening. It makes me feel very much at home. They never allow me to sing more than one song at home either.
So we had a song specially written.
It's more a talking song than a singing song. In fact, it's only a talking song since they heard me sing and told me that I should talk it and not sing it. Here goes. Well, here I am in Nashville, singing on the Opry show. Taking and a grin and looking good for the women. Hey, what a way to go.
He never rehearsed it and he started to sing this song. I mean, I had to really admire his balls.
It's a long, long way from Tipperary to Music City, USA.
And halfway through the song, he forgot the words. But as ever, Mike improvised, told a joke about but I think it was about his wife's teeth being in a mug beside the bed or some old, terrible old joke.
After 25 years of marriage, the wife turns around to the husband in bed one night and says, I think I'll nibble your ear the way I used to. And he says, don't be ridiculous. By the time you find your teeth, I'll be fast asleep.
But he kept going, and he got through to the end.
So here I am in Nashville, singing on the Opry show. Picking and a grin and looking good for the women. Hey, what a way to go. This may have been what I was going for. This just might be my way. It's a long, long way from Tipperary to Music City, USA. But it was worth the trip. Thank you very much.
But he's a ballsy fella, he still is.
Saturday Night Fever came out, it was, you know, that was it. Disco.
Disco arrived in Ireland in the wake of a smash hit movie.
The image of Travolta in the white suit, vanquishing all before him with, you know, astonishing dance steps. People thought, you know, we can ape that and we can do that.
It's easy from this distance to forget the huge impact that disco made in Ireland.
It suddenly meant that you didn't have to have a band to have a party. You could just have a record player.
After decades of shuffling aimlessly round dance floors, Irish men, in particular, seemed keen to rise to this new challenge.
A lot of the men suddenly felt that they could get out there and shake their booty and, who knows, impress members of the opposite sex.
Disco music also managed to appeal across the generations.
The biggest trend in birthday parties in the 70s was to have a disco birthday party, and a disco dancer came in and taught you how to disco. Pretty much was line dancing, but you were allowed to gyrate your hips, and there was more hand movement. but it was everybody performing the same moves. There was the bus stop, the street shuffle was the shuffle forward, and then they used to teach things like in the pocket, through the ear, in the pocket, through the ear. And this gyrating of the pelvis is so sexual. And it was something that nobody was allowed to do before. It was pretty daring, it was a bit dirty, it was a bit sort of sexy, it was a bit naughty, and no parents were watching. It was time to get out there.
And so we come to my top three. And at number 3 is a programme that was not only pioneering, but also played an important role in changing Irish attitudes.
Ireland is the only sovereign EEC country to still retain criminal sanctions in law against homosexuality, with penalties from 10 years to life imprisonment. In studio tonight, we have the national chairman of the Irish gay rights movement, David Norris. David, are homosexuals sick people?
Homosexual acts were not only illegal in Ireland, but widely believed to be evidence of a disease. A programme by Cathal O'Shannon did much to change attitudes.
I wonder why you use this expression gay, why homosexuals use this very expression. Because after all, it isn't always very gay, is it?
Well, I don't know about I don't know how much you know about the gay world, of course, so I'll just...
Well, I'm learning fast.
Cathal O'Shannon made a very important documentary about being gay in Ireland at the time, and I remember how stunned and startled I was at its honesty.
Let me say this to you. I, of course, like everybody else who was not homosexual, has preconceived ideas, as Jimmy has said. I would have thought that most homosexuals would be camp, prancing queens.
It was the first time that David Norris was given the platform that he was to eventually make his own and eventually be the catalyst to having homosexuality decriminalised in Ireland.
Homosexual is a human being like anybody else who needs affection, needs love, needs friends, needs companionship, and needs a social life.
Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy that way.
For the first time, RTE cameras filmed in an Irish gay club.
There was the nightclub, Flickers, which was the Hirschfield Centre. And so you had all the young queens who were so eager to, I'm getting my face on the telly and I don't care, and doing spins in front of the camera. And then you had all the other gays who didn't want to be seen and wanted to remain anonymous, all hiding in the dark shadows. And I mean, that's always been the way that the gay community has been run. But for Cathal O'Shannon to capture that then was so far-sighted.
Sing if you're glad to be gay. Sing if you're happy.
It was a startling piece of television and of incredible value and ongoing value.
At number 2, Phil Lynott.
Thin Lizzy as a band were firing on all cylinders. They were unstoppable. Tremendous experience.
Guess who just got back today? Them wild-eyed boys that had been away haven't changed, had much to say. But man, I still think them cats are crazy.
He was one of the genuine, true rock and roll romantics.
Told them you were living downtown.
His lyrics had a capacity to evolve. And he had a wonderfully wry sense of humour on stage, suggesting that I'm a star, but, you know, you and I know that I'm not really being a star, you know, that I'm really approachable.
Phil Lynott didn't just push the boundaries of music, he also challenged our ideas of what it meant to be Irish.
He was a black Irish ambassador, which was an astonishing thing.
Friday night they'll be dressed to kill down at Dino's Bar and Grill. The drink will flow and blood will spill. And if the boys want to fight, you better let them. That jukebox in the corner blasting out my favorite song. The nights are getting warmer, it won't be long. Won't be long till summer comes. Now that the boys are here again.
It's sad to relate that there was no talking to him. He understood what he was doing. And tragically, he was a doomed romantic figure.
Doomed, perhaps, and certainly a victim of his own excess. But Philip Lynott still holds the affection of a very large number of Irish people. And so to my number one. It was one of the most remarkable spectacles ever to take place on Irish soil, and one of the most ambitious productions ever undertaken by RTE, before or since. By any standards, the visit of Pope John Paul to Ireland in 1979 was an historic occasion.
The 70s was a dark time, and the Pope's visit came at the right time for a new beginning.
On behalf of the people of Ireland and on my own behalf, Céad Míle Fáilte.
It was just the biggest gig in town.
Just a perfect day. He had all the sound bites prepared. He had a fantastic script. He had a great persona. And then, you know, he was God's man on earth, so he had a great promoter.
Young people of Ireland, I love you.
Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you.
I remember the huge sense of occasion.
You just keep me hanging on. You just keep me.
It's one of those moments in your life where you felt as if the world had stopped or else it was in slow-mo. One or the other.
Just a perfect day. Problems all left alone.
There was 500 years of pent-up emotion. They had waited for centuries for this, and they were certainly going to enjoy it.
Just a perfect.
I think it meant a great deal more than it deserved to mean. There was much less to the papal visit than met the eye.
I thought I was someone else, someone good.
Oh, it's such a perfect day. I'm glad I spent it with you.
For all the various reasons that we all know happened, the church unraveled from that moment.
You just keep me hanging on. You just keep me hanging on.
There was an incredible level of emotionality around the papal visit, and it was an imprinting event.
It was a remarkable period. I shouldn't imagine anything like that would ever happen again for 10 centuries.
You're going to reap just what you sow. He and God came to Ireland together, and I think that they put on a good show. You're going to reap just what you sow. You're going to reap just what you sow.
I think it was the most spectacular event that had ever been seen on Irish television.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. You know something they say about the 60s? Good evening and welcome. Tonight we They say if you can remember the 60s, you probably weren't there. They're all those out, you know. And, well... Good evening and welcome. You know something they said about the 60s? If you weren't there, you probably couldn't remember.
Oh, what a joy. Just come on down to the fifth floor.
That funky decade.
Out on the floor.
Well, you know something? The reverse is probably true about the 70s. If you can remember it, you probably weren't there.